Welcome back to 10 Minute Strategy. Today I am interviewing Connor French. He is the CFO of a company called Indego-Africa. And before I try to explain it, I'm going to let Connor explain it himself. Indego-Africa, Connor, tell us what it's about.
Okay. Well, Indego-Africa is a is a social enterprise that partners with artisan women in Africa and creates access to the export markets for them by selling their products to high-end retailers, and then also on a web store, and then investing 100% of the profits, along with all donations in a university-style suite of training programs for the artisan producers. We teach financial management, basic accounting, entrepreneurship, literacy, both Kinyarwanda and English, and computers, and so it's a sort of both short-term income generation for the women to raise their standard of living now, but also trying to prepare them for long-term empowerment, economic empowerment, by giving them job skills that they can use in the future.
Excellent, excellent. And I've been to the site. It's at Indego-Africa.com. It really is a beautiful site. It's well produced and all that. So you did your homework there. And as an example of some of the stuff that I saw for sale, it really sort of makes the story come together. Two things are really interesting, and maybe you can just take us through those two scenarios. One is you have a partnership with Nicole Miller, who's a designer. I'm sure my daughter and wife would know more about Nicole Miller than I. And the second is I saw that you have these teams of women producing computer bags or computer envelopes, whatever you call those, with the zipper. So those are two different scenarios, but I think they're sort of core to your principles. So how did those two product choices come about?
Right. Well, sort of the Nicole Miller, we were very fortunate. It was the third in a string of very recent sort of collaborations with well-known brands in the U.S. It started in July with a collaboration on a bracelet with Polo, Ralph Lauren, and then moved to a knitwear collection with Anthropology that we were lucky that made in the New York Times, and then moved in the direction of the Nicole Miller partnership. And it started a little bit, I guess, understanding our economic models. Important to understand why we would pursue these relationships. But so as part of our fair trade practices, we pay the women 50% upfront and then 50% on delivery in Rwanda. So we absorb 100% of the economic risk of our own inventory. So it's much more comfortable for us if we can find a retail partner that we know is taking the entire collection off of our hands, and that we have a sort of check there. And so that's where we started to look at these high volume orders or companies that were capable of doing that. What we didn't anticipate, which has been sort of a wonderful surprise, is the investment of the fashion community in us and the excitement generated by these people who didn't have a way to collaborate with these other artisan communities, and that could use an intermediary like us to develop their own collection. So now, the Nicole Miller, it should be up soon, but on her website there's an Indego-Africa collection, and so she views it very much as a long-term partnership. In terms of that particular example, we sort of sat down with Nicole, and she really wanted it to be an authentic collaboration. She wanted the input of the artisans, and so we were able to create a bunch of prototypes based on those discussions, and get them to her all sort of within 2 weeks. And then she threw a series of sort of product launch parties, and they sold a lot better than anyone could even anticipated. And so now we're looking at ways to make to have that relationship extend past this one, these two products. Similarly with Anthropology, we are looking at broadening and expanding that relationship in 2011.
Great.
And in terms of the computer bags, I think it's very patronizing sometimes when people assume that because the women we work with are African, they should only make traditional African products. Certainly I love the baskets and those types of products, but I think it's very cool that they're making yoga bags and that they're making computer bags, and obviously that's somewhere that something that's sellable in the export markets in the U.S. and the U.K. and something they need our input in. So again, it's a bit of a collaboration because, you know, truthfully, we're developing, for instance, an iPad prototype right now, and it was sort of a struggle to locate an iPad in Rwanda so that we could, you know, create a wooden replica that we could then use to base the bags on. But you know, I think it can be exciting for them to have some input into the artistic communities in the export markets that they're trying to penetrate.
Absolutely, absolutely, very cool. In the case of, take us through that. So you said we need an iPad bag. We need to get the dimensions over to you, and I'm sure you have a team leader that you work with to some degree. Did they take it and then do several designs off it? I mean, how excited are they to be given a challenge like that?
I mean, I think very excited, and certainly they love seeing the products. You know, the products when we do show them our web store, for instance. But yeah, I mean, it involved a very frantic series of emails and phone calls to everyone we knew in Rwanda to locate an iPad, so that we could borrow it for a couple of hours and create some sort of placeholder or proxy for it in terms of size and weight. And then the women could continue to work with that, and they've continued to do so. You know, we got the first shipment of prototypes in, and some of them look great, and now we're sort of tinkering with that model. You know, the idea is that there's a lot of interest here for those types of products, and among, you know, the word hip is not doesn't describe, you know, our consumer base adequately, but like a lot of sort of very socially progressive youth are into our products, and it's a very nice way for them to connect both some of the newer technologies with some of the fair trade products and their socially conscious desires as consumers.
Exactly. Why don't you talk a little about sort of the revenue model a little bit? So you talked about the fact that the Rwandans are getting the money, some money up front, some money on delivery. You're getting money, obviously U.S. money or U.K. money or wherever into the site and into the business. You know, how are you guys sort of keeping everything running?
You know, it sort of boils down to our nonprofit corporate forum. You know, there were some practical reasons, sort of in the beginning, why we chose that path. But you know, ultimately, you can't run a for-profit business when you are spending, most of your funds on training programs and sort of training the counterparties that you're working with. So we do have sort of a hybrid revenue scheme. You know, we have basically breaks down to product sales revenue and then donations, and that encompasses, you know, corporate sponsorships, you know, impact donors, individual donors, fundraising, foundation grants, things like that. You know, we aim from a model of how we do business. We aim for between 36 to 48% of our revenue coming from product sales, but we probably have a higher cost of goods sold than some other companies. You know, just because sourcing is a little bit difficult in Africa, and you know, obviously the logistics of getting things to the U.S. So we certainly operate on probably some smaller margins, but on the other hand, we do make profit off of those products, which I think is almost revolutionary in what we're trying to do. For instance, when we approach these retailers, they're so used to having to take a loss in order, you know, and they justify it as you know, part of their social impact initiative. And we're showing them a pricing model that, while it may be a little bit discounted from what they would ordinarily be getting, they're still making a profit on the product, and we're making some that we reinvest in the training programs.
Right. Really cool. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up this segment. We're going to start up another segment in a minute. Connor French, CFO of Indego-Africa, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you in a little bit.
Oh, of course. Take care.